Parents of Reddit, what is the funniest reason you have been called into school to collect your child? I was called to collect my son when he was in first grade because he was being disrespectful to his classmates. They would not explain. My son told me that Jeffrey punched him. That makes no sense. About an hour later the light bulb went on. You did not wear underwear today, did you? Nope. I was called in because the elementary school was going on a field that my son forgot to give me the permission slip for. He decided to give forgery a whirl. This was in first grade, so the handwriting was awful. He also signed my name Mom. I got a phone call earlier this year from the school nurse, saying she was concerned because my son had passed out while in the lunch line. I went to pick him up and he seemed a little dazed, but okay. My kid could not remember anything about what happened beforehand. So I made an appointment with his pediatrician for an hour later. Right as we were getting ready to leave, he sheepishly said, "Mom, I just remembered that right before I passed out, we were playing a game to see who could turn their face the reddest." So, my kid had me thinking he had a brain tumor, but no, he just held his breath until he passed out, and not a single other kid thought they should mention that to the teacher. In my senior year of high school I was nearly not allowed to graduate and my family was called because I forged my own name by writing in the Guardian section of a permission slip I was 18. My kid got in huge trouble in kindergarten. A girl told the teacher he said this word. He lost recess. They called me. It was a big deal. I went to pick him up and said, "So, what is this word?" And he stared at his shoes and whispered, "Sexy." Yeah, confirmed by the little tattletale. All of this was caused by sexy. Funniest one I have ever heard. My kids surprisingly well behaved at school. Was a parent having to come get their kid after they were caught selling imaginary friends to the younger students for $1 apiece. That kid's gonna become a business mogul someday. I made the mistake of telling my stepdaughter about the professor I had in college that we knew never read our papers, so it turned into a class game to fit ridiculous sentences and bad jokes into the middle of them to see if we had ever get caught. She apparently decided that was an amazing thing to do, and I got called for a phone conference because she turned in a history paper that was chock full of awful puns that were not appreciated. My mother was called to pick me and my twin sister up because we were turning blue. I think it was 4th grade. We felt fine though. It was only after she arrived that we all remembered she had put brand new blue flannel sheets on our bed the night before. Apparently she had not washed them first. My little brother liked cheese and mustard sandwiches, so my mom made him cheese and mustard sandwiches for lunch. When the teacher asked why he didn't have any meat on his sandwich, he said either we can't afford meat or my mom doesn't let me or something like that. Whatever he said was enough to send CPS over to the house. Another time, he came to school saying that his mom loved Coke, that his mom said she's addicted to Coke. CPS was called again. They lived in a different area this time. Coca-Cola. My mom couldn't go a day without a Coke, so she joked that she was addicted to Coke. I do see the irony that she was actually addicted to a drug, just not the one CPS was worried about. I got a call that my son was sick and that I had to come pick him up. He was completely fine that morning. I asked the nurse, "He really can't go back to class?" And she said, "He says he's really sick." Fine. I picked him up and on the walk home I asked what was up. He said he had to fart really badly and didn't want to do it in class. I laughed and said okay. 2 days later I get another call to pick him up, so I got him and it was for the same reason. I told him that it was funny once but that from now on, if he needed to fart in class, he should go to the bathroom LOL. Daycare had to talk to the director because my son 3 or 4 told another kid "I am gonna F you up." Turns out he was singing Bruno Mars' Uptown Funk you up. My child's first grade teacher was upset that he had accidentally smooshed a butterfly on the playground at recess. When I got there my child was also missing his glasses. She had not noticed this. My youngest had a slight speech impediment when he was at nursery. He would replace his S's with F's to approximate the sound. I had to have a chat with the head at pickup time because I did unthinkingly use the phrase "so long suckers" when pulling away from some traffic lights the day before, and he liked the sound of it so much he used it himself. My professor cited my mom because she said I was writing too slow and turned my test in right as the bell rang. My mom had to leave work early to hear about her child writing slow. The reason I was writing slow was because on my last test, I was docked points for handwriting, so this time I made sure I had the prettiest, most fanciest handwriting the teacher had ever seen. After that, the teacher stopped docking me points due to handwriting. That was in elementary school. Early years, the principal called us and looked at us with a stern look of disapproval while telling us our son was using bad language. I then proceeded to explain to her that my wife and I only spoke French at home and we did not have television. The only English our son had ever heard was at school, so I asked her what she was going to do about it. It was one of the shortest conversations I ever had with a principal. Thank you everybody for the lively discussion and interesting comments. I did not think it would get that much interest. It is obviously a very precious personal moment that my son and I will cherish forever. Glad you got a kick out of it. About the principal, as I recall, she suddenly remembered she had to do something urgently and the meeting was over before I could say anything else. I was the kid and I was in 3rd grade. I climbed on a tree not even that high and then I wanted to climb down. A teacher who hated me saw me and told me to stay there and not to move. I told her it is no problem for me to come down. She insisted I stayed there and turned around to call the fire brigade to get me down. I had enough and climbed down anyway, and then she called my mom because it was my fault the fire brigade was called for no reason. I was in an early morning college class and when I got out I realized I had missed calls, texts, and emails from my daughter's preschool. A voicemail said she had been throwing up and to please hurry and come get her. When I got to the school, the receptionist showed me to a room where my daughter was sat with a trash can on her lap. She told me my daughter kept announcing she was throwing up and then would cough and spit into the trash can. She had no fever and was otherwise cheerful and talkative. I signed her out, got her outside and into my car where she jumped forward and kissed my cheek and told me she missed me and where would I like to go for lunch. That kid busted herself out of preschool to finagle a lunch date with me. It worked. I was the child. In 6th grade I was 12. I was in my emo phase and was wearing a lot of black eyeshadow from Claire's. I guess I was not so good at my makeup yet because they called my mom into the office to discuss my injuries and who was hurting me. My son went to a private Catholic school from 1st grade through 8th grade. I had a nun call me one day because my son and a friend were having a peeing for distance contest in the bathroom, and then another day I was called because my son was looking to see if the dictionary had the word penis in it. Both incidents were in the 3rd grade. When I was in 7th grade, I was an office runner. Basically, if your reading and writing skills were above a certain level, they did let you skip reading class and just work in the office, getting kids whose parents had come for them, delivering messages, that sort of thing. Anyway, the kid next to me just would not shut the duck up. He kept prattling on and on and on, and I did had enough of it. I had a monster fart brewing, so I cocked my leg, locked eyes with him, told him to shut his mouth, and farted on him. Or, at least, that was the plan. Instead, I cocked my leg, locked eyes with him, told him to shut his mouth, and completely shit my pants in the most glorious fashion. This was not a little nugget, this was a full pants load of chocolate pudding, then ran down my leg and made a little puddle on the floor. Everything in the office goes dead silent, and there is no mistaking what has just happened. The kid just stared at me with absolute horror in his eyes. Without looking away from him, I raised my hand and said Miss Office Lady's name I do not remember. I think I need to call my mom. I went home, took a bath, threw the pants away, and came back the next day. The kid was seated on the opposite side of the room from me and I never had a problem with him again. He feared and respected me from then on. My dad got sent to the principal's office for telling his 6th grade teacher she was pronouncing the state capital of South Dakota, Pierre, wrong. She kept saying, Pierre 2 syllables, like the French name, and he said it was Pierre 1 syllable, like what you fish off of. He was sent off for not respecting the teacher's authority. My grandpa had to drive to school to talk to the teacher and principal and says, "Did you ask why he says it's Pierre? Because if you did, you'd find out that both his father and I are from South Dakota. He visits his grandparents and aunts and uncles in South Dakota every summer. He knows plenty of people from South Dakota who all say Pierre. Do you know anyone from South Dakota? No. Well, take it from a South Dakotan. It's Pierre. We are not fancy French people, and stop wasting my time." My son 14, 8th grade, during class change walked into the boys' bathroom, put his hands over his head, and while thrusting his hips in a humping motion told all the other boys in the room to protect your buttholes, gentlemen. Here I come. The funniest part about it all, that exact same description was jotted down on the write-up slip. Even the principal could not stop laughing. My daughter hid inside of a toy box for hours in preschool and the teachers couldn't find her. LOL, she's going to be my wild child. When I was in 2nd grade, I had a shirt that we got as a hand-down from a friend of my mom's with Braille on the front. Apparently no one ever took the time to figure out what it said, but there was a translator key on the sleeve, so I sat down and translated the word on the front one letter at a time while in class. Fuckoff. Oh my, I said. I knew this was a bad word, so I told my teacher and apologized. I was not in trouble, but my parents were called and asked to come bring in a new shirt while I waited in the office. My principal thought it was hilarious. Apparently, we had a classmate who was partially blind. I am unsure if she had vision enough to see my shirt, but she did know Braille. I believe that is one of the reasons I had to wait in the office, though. Not a parent, but as a kid when I got Pokemon Yellow, I was so goddamn into it that when we went out for lunch one day at school, I got inside this huge bush that was practically hollow inside. It was among a load of other large bushes and trees at the side of the school field and rarely ever was entered by students because we weren't really allowed. So I sat there for hours playing Pokemon, and when I came out it was 3 p.m. School closed at 3:30. I had been in there since 12:30 and my mother was at the school and was freaking out because she thought they let me leave the school alone. I got called on my work cell several times right out of college to come to a local high school because my 14-year-old son was in trouble. I do not have a son, and if I had a son, it would be very impressive if he was 14 years old then, because I would have had to conceive him when I was 9. I told them that. They kept calling. Finally, I showed up at the high school to prove that I, a 23-year-old white guy, was not the father of the 14-year-old Indian boy. The assistant principal was like, "Oh, right." My mom told me that when my brother was in grade school, she got the call to pick him up for a day's suspension. Turned out that during lunch he opened his lunchbox and pulled out a can of Foster's. It was empty and it was meant to be a joke, but the school didn't see it that way. He was 9 and right at the start of a decade-long mission to raise heck. Oh my, I have 4 kids, all adults now, who were pretty high-spirited back in the day. My oldest son, however, wins the prize from an incident in 6th grade. I got a call one afternoon that he had been sent to the principal's office. Nothing new there, and I needed to come get him at once. Uh-oh, he had mooned the 2nd graders, all of them, and their teachers. Not me, but a classmate of a CO worker sent everyone home once. Many years ago, he nicked a decent bit of elemental potassium from the chemistry lab and dropped it down the sewer access pipe outside the school. This was not good for the school's plumbing. City had to dig up the sidewalk to repair things. Not me, but my sister. She got a call from her son's very Catholic school that he needed to be picked up. She gets to the school and the principal said that he had to go home for the day because he peed on the tree outside at recess. He really laid into her about how they had to bleach the tree. Seriously, they poured bleach on the tree because a little kid peed on it. And it was terrible, and how she should not be teaching her son these things. My sister looked him straight in the eye and asked, "Do you really think I have the right plumbing to have taught him that?" Yell at my husband when he comes in next time. It is funny now, but was not at the time. One day I was called to pick up my daughter from school. I asked why and was vaguely told she had been caught cheating, was being disrespectful to the teacher and had destroyed government property. Holies, I thought, what had she done? My mind instantly went through scenarios in which she had cheated on a test, got caught, then my sweet little 7-year-old had cursed the teacher while throwing something through a window. I got to the school, found my scared daughter in the principal's office looking totally dejected and asked for an explanation. I discovered the cheating was that she had giggled while playing a game where someone was it and the other half of the classroom had to guess who it was. The disrespecting teacher was from her crossing her arms when she was being told how she wrecked the game. The best was the explanation for destroying government property. During story time she was picking at loose carpet threads. I was extremely angry with my daughter the whole drive from work, and after this load of WTF, it instantly transferred to anger with the school. You called me here because she giggled, crossed her arms and picked at old nasty carpet. I was hot and took my daughter home, letting her know I was a bit upset with her, but let her know that there would be no more punishment. She had been through enough. We went home and watched cartoons and I made her favorite grilled cheese and tomato soup for lunch. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.